What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC 300. We got Alex Pereira going against Jamal Hill, a card that is absolutely stacked from top to bottom. I am really looking forward to this card, looking forward to hopefully making some money on this card. 13 great fights, and yeah, looking forward to breaking it down. Before we get into it, if you guys could please do me a favor, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, getting really close to 25K subscribers. If you guys have not subscribed, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. I do appreciate that a ton. And then yeah, as always, going to be breaking down these fights from a betting perspective and a betting perspective only. If you do want a further, more in-depth breakdown on why I'm picking who, I did post a full card breakdown video on Sunday. And then lastly, since this is a massive card, going to be bringing back the prop contest. So going to be doing $25 to first place, whoever hits the biggest plus money prop. So yeah, comment down any prop. So say, for example, you like, I don't know, maybe for some reason you like Holm by knockout, plus 1,200. Put it down in the comments. Whoever has the biggest plus money prop wins. If there's a tie, the tiebreaker does go to the person that commented first. The last time I did this was UFC 299, and literally only one person got something right. So yeah, it's kind of a tough card for big plus money props. But let me know what you guys have down in the comments. And I'll shout you out next betting breakdown video, whoever wins there. All right, I say we get into it. And I say we start with the first fight of the card. We have Figueiredo going against Cody Garbrandt. And yeah, there's a couple fights I'm going to be passing on, and I think this is going to be one of them. I think it's an incredible fight, but I hate to say it, I feel like this could be maybe the least exciting fight of the card, and I feel that way because it's Cody Garbrandt, and Cody Garbrandt has really always been lower volume, but especially at this point of his career, he kind of has to be. He can't go out there and get into a firefight, especially with Figueiredo. I feel like he's going to do everything in his power to not engage, kind of like the Trevin Jones fight, where a lot of clinching, a lot of just using that footwork, and not a ton of exchanging. Like the Rafael Assunção fight, where he landed like 20 strikes in almost 2 rounds in that fight. So I feel like we could get like a slower paced fight. Both of these guys a little bit lower volume. If I was to bet it, it probably would be Figgy inside the distance at plus 100 on Bovada, but I could also see a scenario where just not a ton goes on, and betting violence in a fight like that's not really something I want to do. So I'm picking Figueiredo. I think he probably does finish Cody Garbrandt, but he's minus 300 here. Don't love it, and then also don't really love any props for this one. But yeah, I'm going Figgy here to kick off the card. Next, we have Bobby Green going against Jim Miller, and this is going to be my first bet of the card. I have Jim Miller finish only, which is the same thing as scorecards equals no action, which is the same thing as decision no bet. And there's actually 3 of these props that I do like on this card. 3 of them all are plus money, and this is one of them. Jim Miller finish only, plus 100. Yeah, I think there's a solid chance Bobby Green can go out here and win a 15-minute decision, but I think the majority of the finishing equity is on the Jim Miller side. I mean, the last time Jim Miller won a decision was a very, very long time ago, and I don't really think he's winning one here. And he's taken on Bobby Green, who I'm just starting to question the durability a little bit. Bobby Green's coming off of one of the most brutal knockout losses I've ever seen against Jalen Turner, just a trash stoppage by Kerry Hatley, and that wasn't too long ago. That was like 4 months ago, where Bobby Green took all that damage. He got knocked out brutally by Drew Dober as well. So Bobby Green's taken a ton of damage, and Jim Miller, although he doesn't hit anywhere near as hard as a Jalen Turner or a Drew Dober, he still hits pretty dang hard. So I think Jim Miller, if he does win this fight, he's going to win it inside the distance. But like I said, I think Bobby Green by decision. If you like Bobby Green, I think that's the way you play him. But I'm on Jim Miller finish only. Hope he can go out there and find the chin of Bobby Green at some point in this fight. Could be knockout, could be club and sub, but I do like that finish only for Jim Miller. Next, we got Jessica Andrade going against Marina Rodriguez. And yeah, I'm liking violence here. And a big talking point for this card, as of recent, is going to be the fact that Dana White said he's going to give out $300,000 bonuses. And a lot of people have asked me my thoughts on this and asked me my thoughts on, how does this change my thoughts on a certain fight or on the card as a whole. And to be honest, not a ton, because I was already picking a ton of violence for this card. I think it's already a very violent card, but the fact that, they are doing that $300,000 bonus, I think that is going to push potentially for more finishes. But like I said, I'm not taking that into account that much because I'm already picking a ton of violence, and this is one of those spots, with the Jessica Andrade fight, which more often than not, you are going to expect violence. Jessica Andrade, she has multiple paths to finish here. She can knock out Rodriguez. We saw Lemos knock knock out Rodriguez. And then, of course, we have seen Rodriguez struggle on the mat. Andrade is a black belt, so I could see Andrade KO or sub. And then I think Rodriguez is even live for a finish. Jessica Andrade has actually been finished more times than anybody on this card. 9 times Jessica Andrade, which is a major concern, right? So I think Rodriguez is very live to potentially finish Andrade here. So I'm liking that fight doesn't go to decision. It's plus money. I have 1.5 units on it at plus 100. I think somebody's getting served here. I'm actually going to pick Rodriguez outright, but you know, I get why people are on Andrade. I get why she's probably favored here. She has more paths to win. It's just, it wasn't too long ago when people were completely writing off Andrade, calling her washed, calling her a bum, and then she goes out there and outstrikes Mackenzie Dern, which tells me nothing. I think she's going to struggle a lot here against Maria Rodriguez, who's a really good striker, obviously a much, much better striker than Mackenzie Dern. So I'm kind of picking Rodriguez by knockout here, but just give me that fight doesn't go, because I think there's paths for both fighters to finish in this one, and it's plus money, and it's going to be violent, I think. So give me a fight doesn't go to decision, 1.5 units, plus 100. Next, we got Jalen Turner going against Renato Moicano. And yeah, I like Jalen Turner quite a bit. He's sitting at minus 230. I don't think he's the worst parlay piece in the world this week. And on top of that, I like him to win inside the distance, more specifically in round 1 or round 2. Jalen Turner inside the distance is sitting at around minus 160, minus 170, but Jalen Turner to win in round 1 or round 2 is at minus 115. And I played that. I have 1.5 units on it. The reason being Jalen Turner, 14 wins, all 14 of those wins coming in the first or second round. He has 0 wins by decision, 0 wins in the third round. And my thinking is if this fight does reach the third round, it probably means that Moicano was able to take this fight down to the mat, rack up some control, and that, you know, Moicano does have a path to victory here. If he is able to get the fight down to the mat, he could get some control, maybe a sub even, but I think Moicano is going to struggle getting this fight down to the mat against a much, much bigger, much more dangerous Jalen Turner. I mean, Jalen Turner has dynamite in his hands, and I think he knocks out Moicano, and I think it comes early as well. So I'm on the 1-2 for Jalen Turner, 1.5 units, minus 115. Next, we got Diego Lopes going against Sodiq Yusuff. And yeah, kind of a tough fight to call here because there's a lot of reasons to like Sodiq Yusuff as an underdog. And I think he's a very popular underdog this week. I think a lot of people are going to be on him because, yeah, you can make a case that he might even deserves to be favored here. He's fought the much better competition. I think he's the much better striker. I think he has multiple paths, either, you know, outstriking Diego Lopes across 15, knocking out Diego Lopes, maybe taking him down, getting some top control like Brito or Evloev. But, you know, I have a feeling Lopes wins this fight. It's a weird fight to break down because I think Yusuff has all these advantages, but Diego Lopes just seems to find a way. He's so dangerous wherever the fight goes. On the feet, he has knockout power, and then on the mat, his grappling's incredible. He's super dangerous, and although Sodiq Yusuff, I believe, is a brown belt or a black belt, you know, if this fight hits the mat, Lopes is going to be live for that submission. So I think at some point Lopes is going to either find the chin of Yusuff, maybe a club and sub could be in play, but I like Lopes to win this fight inside the distance. Rather than playing that inside the distance, though, I just went with the under 2.5 because it's not much of a different price, to be honest. I think Lopes inside the distance around plus 100, which is, you know, not great, but that under minus 140. And, you know, Yusuff does have a path here to finish. Yusuff hits very hard. He has multiple first-round finishes and, quite frankly, almost finished, Edson Barbosa in the first round last time out. Like, that fight was so close to being stopped, and I think he could potentially knock out Lopes here. Lopes has been knocked out twice, but I think Lopes does find that finish here. But just give me the under. I think this is a violent fight of many on this card. Next, we got Kayla Harrison going against Holm here. And yeah, earlier in the week, I was kind of thinking actually the over. But man, after seeing Kayla Harrison make the weight this morning, she looked good doing it. And then at ceremonial, she really filled out. And, you know, and I said to myself, if Kayla Harrison makes weight and looks good doing it, you know, she's going to, I think, destroy Holm. You know, Holm's 42, almost 43 years old. She hasn't looked great, like, in a very long time. Holm. She just got submitted by Bueno Silva. I remember that fight with Ketlin Vieira, which was just a terrible look. She looked awful in that fight. And, you know, Kayla Harrison, I think she wins this fight very dominantly. The question is it going to be a knockout? Is it going to be a submission? Or is it going to be just a very dominant decision? I think it could be any of the three, but I'm kind of starting to lean more on that inside the distance, and it's solid plus money. Kayla Harrison around minus 450 to minus 500 on the money line. Her inside the distance is plus 138. I don't mind that because I think she's going to get on top here. And when she's on top, she has the ground and pound, she has the submission game as well. She is a finisher also. And Holly Holm's been finished twice. And like I said, she's now like 42, 43 years old. So, yeah, kind of like at Harrison, especially after seeing her on the scales, seeing her at the ceremonials. I think she goes out there, wants to make a statement, and gets to finish probably in the first or second round. So I'm on Kayla Harrison inside the distance, 1 unit, plus 138. Next, we got Aljamain Sterling going against Calvin Kattar. Tricky fight here for me because there's just a couple spots sticking out. I only have one bet on this fight, though. I ended up pulling the trigger on the Calvin Kattar money line, 1 unit at plus 150. I just have question marks about Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling's a guy that's completing takedowns at a 24% accuracy at bantamweight. Now he's coming up to featherweight, taking on a much, much bigger Calvin Kattar who, his takedown defense hasn't been tested a ton, but when it has, it's held up. He has a 91%, 92% takedown defense. So, if Kattar is able to stuff the takedowns, keep it on the feet, I think he looks like the favorite here. But obviously, if Sterling does get this fight down to the mat, takes the back, maybe he can get a sub. So, but yeah, I'm on Kattar. I like the bigger guy. I think Cater's going to have the better striking, more power especially. I think the knockout could be live. But I'm just on the money line for 1 unit at plus 150. Some other spots that kind of stuck out. I think the under is decent. I think it's decent, and it did not end up getting onto the under though. And then I think if you're on the Sterling side, the Sterling sub I saw is plus 480 on FanDuel Sportsbook. I don't hate it. And then also Kattar by knockout I saw is plus 500 on FanDuel. Also don't hate it, but like I said, I just ended up going with the Kattar money line. I'm actually picking him to win by decision here, but a knockout wouldn't shock me. So just on the Kattar money line, one of my 2 money lines for UFC 300, 1 unit at plus 150. Next, we got Alexander Rakic going against Jiří Prochazka, and this is a Jiří Prochazka fight, which means I'm liking some violence, and the violence numbers are very, very generous in this fight for some reason. So Jiří Prochazka, 34 fights, 30 of his 34 have went under 2.5 rounds. This is a guy with a 97% finish rate. And a lot of people are talking about if Rakic wins, he's going to win by decision. And I really don't agree with that at all for a couple of reasons. For one, when's the last time Jiří Prochazka won a decision or lost a decision? And the answer to that is never. He's never lost a decision, and he's been fighting forever. He has 1 million fights. Never, ever has he lost a decision. And the other reason I don't think Rakic is winning a decision is because he just doesn't do anything. To win a decision, you got to do stuff, and Rakic is just so low volume. But I think that Jiří Prochazka is going to kind of bring the fight out of Rakic, which I think is going to lead to violence. Jiří blocks punches with his face. He's been hurt in all 4 UFC fights, and Rakic is a big light heavyweight that has a ton of power. I think, Rakic by knockout is very much on the table, but, Jiří by knockout is very much on the table as well. I like the under here, and it's not a crazy price. You would think for a Jiří fight who goes under, 90% of the time, his underprice would be a lot more juice, but no, at minus 142 for the under 2.5. I have 1.5 units on it. I'm picking Rakic with little to no confidence. I'm not a big fan of the guy, but I think he could potentially knock out Jiří. I'm just rooting for violence here, and I think that Yuri's going to bring the violence. And another thing to mention, these guys hate each other. Rakic called Jiří a fake samurai, and Jiří did not take it too well. So I think these guys are going to get after it. I like the under 2.5, and I think it's very playable this week for a Jiří Prochazka fight. Moving on, we got Arman Tsarukyan going against Charles Oliveira. Have another finish only here. I'm on the finish only for Charles Oliveira, 1 unit at plus 165. I mean, you're giving me one of the best finishers in the division. Finish only at big plus money, plus 165. I think Arman could obviously knock him out, but I think Arman can also win a decision, and that's why I kind of like that finish only rather than that Charles money line, because Charles isn't winning a decision. The last time Charles Oliveira won a decision was, 2018 maybe, like a very, very long time ago. I don't see it happening. So I could see a scenario where Arman does get takedowns here, does get top control, kind of stays safe on top. I think that's very much in play, but, Charles Oliveira is going to be dangerous wherever the fight goes. On the mat, he has that submission game, and then on the feet, he just has a ton of power as well. So I think if there's a finish in this fight, I think it's a little bit more likely that it's on the Oliveira side, or at the very least, I think that finish only should be a pick 'em, because Charles Oliveira has just so much finish upside in really any fight he's in. So to get it at plus 165, I like it, but I'm fully aware that Arman Tsarukyan can go out there and win a pretty dominant decision. But I'm taking Oliveira, and I'm playing him by that finish only. I was looking at the money line, but like I said, I don't think he's winning a decision. Then I was also looking at the inside the distance, but I ended up settling on that finish only. There's a couple finish onlys I do like on the card, and that's one of them. Next, we got Bo Nickal going against Cody Brundage. Yeah, not much sticking out here. I think the under 1.5 is a very solid parlay piece, probably one of my favorite parlay pieces on the card. I do a final betting article on my website. I'm going to have a couple DGen parlays on there. I do a main card, a prelim parlay, and then also a Hail Mary parlay. The under 1.5 is going to be in a couple of those. I think Bo Nickal goes out there, gets his fight down to the mat, and finishes. The big question, though, is it knockout? Is there sub? The sub's minus 130, the knockout's plus 130. There's just no point in trying to flip a coin in terms of what he's going to do, but I do think Bo Nickal wins this fight. I think he wins it in the first round. Don't lay minus 2,300 on Bo Nickal. Don't parlay him up. He adds nothing to your parlays. And then also, it is probably a dog or pass, but I just can't bring myself to bet on Cody Brundage. So it should be Nickal. Should be Nickal round one. I think the under 1.5, if you're looking for a parlay piece, I think that's solid just due to the fact that Bo Nickal has like a combined 6 minutes fight time. So under 1.5 as a parlay piece, but that's really about it. Next, we got Max Holloway going against Justin Gaethje. So shout out to FanDuel and DraftKings for getting props out early. And a prop they got out early really stuck out. It was the finish only for Max Holloway. They opened it at plus 500, and I put one unit on it. Just made absolutely no sense. So I beat a ton of CLV. I think it's like plus 350 now. And yeah, you're getting the most durable fighter in UFC history finish only at just a massive price tag. Could Justin Gaethje finish him? Sure, he could. He could for sure. It's just, that line just made no sense to me. Obviously, it's moved a little bit. I still don't mind the Max Holloway finish only at a big price tag where it's currently at plus 350, and I still don't mind that Max Holloway plus 5.5 point spread, but I'm on that finish only for one unit, and then I'm also on the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 115 for 1.5 units. I think this is the most violent fight on the card. I know a lot of people think this fight's going to decision. It could. Both guys are durable, but you take a look at Justin Gaethje, 9 fights scheduled for 5 rounds. None of them have went the distance, and you can kind of see why with the way he goes out there and fights, and he's going against Holloway, who I just have a feeling these guys, it's not even a feeling, these guys are going to go out there and stand and bang until one man falls. And who's it going to be? And is it going to be Justin Gaethje, who has been finished in all 4 of his losses, who's been knocked out twice? Or is it going to be Max Holloway, who's never been finished yet, but he is coming up a weight class against a much harder hitter? Max Holloway has been hurt before. He got hurt bad against Dustin Poirier, hurt bad against Alexander Volkanovski in their 3rd fight. So I just think there's multiple paths for this fight to finish. I think Gaethje could potentially be the first person to knock out Max Holloway, but I also think that Max Holloway's live for a late finish here. I think Max Holloway can, pump out the volume, and it could be like an attritional stoppage in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round. And by the way, like I said, FanDuel and DraftKings got out these early props. Some of these props on Holloway were ridiculous. I only got to that finish only, but I saw the round 3, 4, and 5s were just stupid numbers. So if you got in on those, you beat some line movement, because I swear, like, Holloway 3, 4, and 5 were like plus 6,000, like stupid numbers. Did not get to them, but I'm on that finish only at a big number. Got some CLV there, and then, like I said, I'm also on the fight doesn't go to decision, 1.5 units minus 115. The most violent fight on the card, in my opinion. These guys are gonna stand and bang until one man falls. Next, we have the co-main event: Zhang Weili going against Yan Xiaonan. And I like Zhang Weili quite a bit here. I think she's going to go out there, and a lot of people are saying this line's off, and I don't really think it's off. Like, if Zhang Weili comes in here with the right game plan, she's going to look minus 510. She's going to go out there and get this fight down to the mat, and Yan Xiaonan has a huge corner game, and that's the ground game, and Zhang Weili can get takedowns, and on top, she's vicious. Great ground and pound, sneaky submission game as well. I think Zhang Weili goes out there, gets some takedowns here and eventually finishes the fight. So I'm on Zhang Weili. I like her inside the distance, 1.5 units plus 110. One of my first bets of the card, something that really jumped out just because we saw what Carla Esparza did to Yan Xiaonan not too long ago. And if Carla Esparza is going out there and just destroying you in the second round, like what is Zhang Weili going to do? And the answer to that is probably very bad thing. So I like Zhang Weili into the distance, 1.5 units at plus 110. And then finally we got Alex Pereira going against Jamahal Hill in the main event. I'm on the Hill side like many people seem to be, and he's going to be my second money line bet of the card, 1 unit at plus 118. Didn't want to mess around with the knockout, the sub, the inside the distance. It's not much of a difference from the money line. So I just went with the money line, 1 unit plus 118. It would be a bigger bet if Jamahal Hill wasn't coming off of like a major injury, but after looking at this fight, like there's some advantages I do like on that Jamahal Hill side. He's going to be much younger. He's going to be much higher volume as well. The volume that Jamahal Hill brings to the table is incredible, and I think most importantly, he's going to be the more durable fighter. I mean, Jamahal Hill's very, very durable, can take a shot, whereas Alex Pereira, we've seen him hurt on multiple occasions. We've seen him knocked out. He's been finished in both his losses. So yeah, I like Jamahal Hill at plus money, 1 unit plus 118. Wanted to go bigger, but there are some major concerns with Jamahal Hill. I mean, the injury, the layoff, the fact that Alex Pereira hits like an absolute truck in his own right. So yeah, just 1 unit on Jamahal Hill money line. I like it. And then as far as I think another parlay piece that potentially sticks out is that fight ends by knockout on FanDuel. They have it at minus 300. I think that's a solid parlay piece as well this week. So yeah, that's about it. Going to do a quick recap for you guys. The 2 money line bets I have: Jamahal Hill, Calvin Kattar, both plus money, 1 unit on each. Jamahal Hill plus 118, Calvin Kattar plus 150. I have Zhang Weili inside the distance, 1.5 units plus 110. Holloway Gaethje fight doesn't go the distance, 1.5 units minus 115. Holloway finish only, 1 unit plus 500. That line has moved. I still don't mind it at big, plus 350 around there. Or the plus 5.5 point spread, whichever you prefer. The Charles Oliveira finish only, one of my 3 finish onlys of the card, 1 unit plus 165. Rakic Yuri fight doesn't go the distance, 1.5 units minus 1, or under 2.5, my bad, 1.5 units minus 142. The Yusuff Lopes under 2.5 rounds, 1.5 units minus 140. Kayla Harrison inside the distance, 1 unit plus 138. Turner wins in round 1 or 2, 1.5 units minus 115. The Andrade Rodriguez fight doesn't go the distance, 1.5 units plus 100. And then the Jim Miller finish only, 1 unit plus 100. So not taking a ton of big plus money shots, not really touching any round props this week, not touching any sub props this week. None of those really sticking out, but I do think it's a violent card. I think it's always been a violent card, but the fact that they are adding those 300K bonuses, I think should hopefully lead to more violence. So I'm staying away from the overs. There were some overs that did stick out initially, like the Harrison over and the Pereira Hill over 1.5, but definitely not touching those now. And I'm hoping we get some violence. I'm hoping we get a fun card. And I don't see how it's not fun, to be honest. So, yeah, there you guys go. Don't forget to comment your biggest plus money prop for the contest. I'll shout you out when we come back in 2 weeks. And then also $25 the first. So, yeah, comment down those props. And be on the lookout for Best Bet Fight Day going live at 4 Eastern Time. We'll see you guys there. And best of luck for UFC 300. We'll talk to you guys later.